On the right.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, C.
Good morning, baby.
How you feeling today, my lovely wife, current event engineer?
Doing wonderful as
Wait,
usual.
I did that wrong. Good morning, my lovely wife, current event engineer, uh, podcast host of her own show. With Nature's Secret. Hands up. Hands up. Good
Hey,
morning, Gina Lee. Good
good morning,
morning.
Gina.
That's what I tell my wife. I love the way y'all do that grand entrance thing, Just even if it's a minute late, just so you popping in. They got this thing at our job. They try to tell you that you're a minute late when you punch in, that you late. I mean, I don't really care because they don't care what time you get out. So, I don't care what time I get there. Is that Doc?
That's that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
Doc, how
bro.
you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. And you?
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. Good morning, everybody. Y'all can see
Good
that. Yeah,
morning.
make sure you let me know, man. Um,
Good
uh,
morning to all of you.
y'all see, I'm doing a little work out here, and that's my thing. So y'all go ahead and get started. See everybody do your thing, and then I'm gonna get into the prayer. Y'all spoke and all that kind of stuff and greeted everybody.
Okay, you want to do the prayer
But
first?
left, right, okay. Say it again.
You want to do the prayer first?
Oh yeah, okay. I guess everybody's greeted then. I was just making sure everybody said hello to everybody. Hello,
We did.
everybody out there in podcast land. Hello,
Sugar.
Doctor. Hello, Gina. Hello,
Hello.
CC. Hello, John Boy. Anyway, we got so many
Hello,
wonderful
Sugar
things
Mama
coming.
Jones.
Sugar Bob, my family is jumping in there. Frankie Ray banging. Oh, I just love all our supporters. I thank y'all so very much. Hey, listen, y'all. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get in here and do this prayer and stuff. Then I'm gonna my engineer, whether I like it or not, is gonna mute me. You know what I mean? Because of all the back noise. I'm doing my Party Marty's Moonbound thing. So let's get into prayer. Prayer starts. Father God, thank you for the wonderful things that's going on in all our lives. Father God, thank you for making the podcast so strong. Father God, thank you for the A-team. Father God, thank you for the blessings that you bestowing upon us just by letting us get up to date to do the podcast. Father God, we always pray for those people over there fighting those God-forsaken wars, losing limbs, losing their lives, the mothers, the fathers, the sisters, the brothers, everybody out there. Father God, we also pray for everybody that still hasn't gotten the shot. Damn fools dealing with this God-forsaken pandemic. Father God, please let you touch their heart, hold them down, put the needle in their arm, get them well. Father God, Gina Lee always make sure that we tell everybody to pray for all the disasters that's going on. The hurricanes, the wildfires, the floods, just everything that's going on out there in this world, Father God. These are praying times and we need your prayer. Moment of silence, please. Amen.
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 Hey y'all, I'm gonna gracefully bow out, watch my team do their thing. I'm gonna be sitting right here watching, but my background noise won't allow me to talk. But I'll jump in there when I can. All right, y'all, do your thing. Everybody, chime in, make some noise. Thanks for being there.
And if you need to talk, just wave your hand so I can unmute your mic.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Good morning, BB. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. All right, so I guess we gonna get this thing started, Doc and Gina. And let's start with Gina Lee. What you got for us today, Gina Lee?
Well, good morning, everybody. And good morning, panel. Good morning, everybody in podcast land. I have a topic today. You may have heard of it, you may not. The topic is that there were 37,000 graves moved from one cemetery to another cemetery. When they were moved, the gravestones were not moved with. So I wanted to tell you this story because there are some prominent figures that were buried in these cemeteries. And the story goes that back in the day, of course, cemeteries were segregated. So when people were buried, the person that owned the land also had the right to sell the land. Well, in Richmond, Virginia, there was a cemetery called Columbian Harmony Cemetery, which was predominantly Black, of course. And the cemetery, established in 1859, it was the most prominent burial site for African Americans. And the person that owned it, with some coercion, sold the land. And also, the person he sold it to, he made a deal that all the bodies would be moved to it's called National Harmony Cemetery in Maryland. Now, just recently, a gentleman who was a senator purchased a home on the Potomac River, and he and his wife were out for a stroll, and the wife came across these stones, but she didn't recognize it as at first, but she asked her husband, "Is that a," and he said, "Yes, it is." It was gravestones, and they bordered their brand new property. So he went and did some research and found out that, like I said, that the original cemetery, Columbian, had moved all these African American graves to National Harmony Memorial, and that's I believe in Landover, and they say they contacted the family members of all of these people, and that the people agreed that the burial sites could be moved. Well, they didn't tell them that they were going to bury all of them in a mass grave with no headstones whatsoever. And the headstones were sold for scrap, and all 37,000 of them were thrown into the Potomac River. Like I said, only these 55 bordered this man's property. So when he discovered it, he, notified officials and lawmakers and so forth that this had to be rectified, because, where were the site? Where were these people? All these people. So with research, they found out that they had been moved to the National Memorial Cemetery here in Maryland. And just recently in August 23rd of this year, they had a ceremony with Governor Hogan and the Governor Northam of Virginia, and many, many, many of the descendants of the people who had originally been buried in Columbian Cemetery. So what they did was the 55 stones that they were able to recover, they moved them to the National Cemetery and relocated them to what they call a national garden, because there's no way to determine exactly where these individuals are buried. So now they also recovered about 300 other stones, headstones, but because they had been underwater for so long, the names and dates were eroded, so they couldn't even tell who they belonged to. So what they're planning to do with those is make a wall to commemorate them, even though you may not be able to read the names, to make a memorial wall at National Cemetery to honor them. Well, National Cemetery, as I said, is in Maryland, which was also a predominantly African-American cemetery. And there are some very prominent people who are buried there. And I'm gonna just name a few. And one of them is very historical. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, one of them is Philip Reed. And Philip Reed was a slave who worked for a gentleman named Clark Mills. And Clark Mills was what they called a foundry worker. They made statues. And he was known for making the statue of Andrew Jackson and George Washington. And he was the first to make statues where the person was on a horse with the legs raised. And he was prominent for that because people couldn't figure out how the statue was standing without any other support except the back legs. So that's how he kind of got his fame. But he had enslaved Philip Reed pretty much all his life. But Philip Reed was a very intelligent, very skilled person who taught himself the workings of how to make and create statues. So when Mills was asked to create the statue for the top of the Capitol building, and it's called the Statue ironically, the Statue of Freedom. Mills said, I won't do it unless you pay me a certain amount of money. So Philip Reed knew that Mills had already created a cast of a statue. But what the gentleman did was he had put a type of plaster around the seals of the statue so nobody could break it apart and move it. But Mills, he was so intelligent, he figured out a way to crack that seal and was able to move that statue. And he is the one who is responsible for or given the title of placing that statue on the top of the Capitol building. Like I said, it's just amazing when you listen to these stories and you say you've seen these things, you've maybe even talked about them or whatever, or visited the Capitol, or how much of a contribution that we actually had in history. We know we built the White House, but it just kind of touched me that this man is the one who built what is called the Statue of Freedom while he was a slave. Now, he was later emancipated, and because he was such an intelligent person, he started his own business. And when word got out that he was the one who created the statue, he got a lot of business. So, he did fairly well in his later years. But, this was not until he was like in his 50s, So this is the statue. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, and it is on top of the Capitol. And he is the one who is responsible for it, Philip Reed, who is one of the people who was moved, whose grave was moved from Columbian to National Harmony Cemetery. And, it's just, his family had to actually do research to find out where he actually is. But he's actually been moved a third time, and the third time was to, because originally his grave in Columbian Cemetery was facing the Capitol. And then to the National Cemetery, and his final resting place is here in Maryland. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, the name of the cemetery. But if you do your research, you can find it. Philip Reed and his master had named him Reed, R-E-I-D. But once he was emancipated, he changed his name to R-E-E-D. And so if you look him up, you'll see, where and the information about him. But yeah, he was moved 3 times. So now they do have a plaque to commemorate him. But it's like, it's not where he's actually buried, but it's in National Cemetery.
I just want to know who make these type of decisions. You know, in everybody's mind that I know, a person's final resting place is sacred. So I just want to know who makes these decisions to just go and uproot people's grave. It's so disrespectful. So disrespectful.
Exactly. You know, I say to myself that, you know, well, we know back in the day, they had no respect for us. So we were just something to be tossed away.
And they still don't, but that's a whole exactly. That's a whole other story right there.
Exactly. So, you know, it just when I think about some of the cemeteries that we had right here in Baltimore that are so unkept, as opposed to going out to some of the better kept cemeteries that are predominantly white. You know, I say, like you just said, it's still going on today.
Is that cemetery still on North Avenue right there by Pennsylvania North?
North of Pennsylvania, I believe it is. They say, I think it's right behind the subway. Yes, I believe it's still there.
I know it used to be.
You would never know it unless you did history. You would never know it.
That's crazy.
Right there in North of Pennsylvania. And then you have, you know, Greenmount Cemetery, where quite a few prominent people are buried. And, you know, you have the cemetery at the end of North Avenue, Greenmount Cemetery. You have the cemetery at Greenmount and North, you know. And then you've got Mount Auburn, which it's in Cherry Hill, but you know that cemetery, it's terrible. It's in terrible shape, you know. But you know what the deal is.
Yeah. Doc, whenever you get ready to speak, just hold your finger up. I don't know why I get so much feedback off your mic. Maybe turn the volume down a little bit.
I think that might be a little better.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, it's so unfortunate because it seems like we are constantly being reminded that our color makes a difference on how we're treated. And this is with life and death, meaning like even after death. You know, meaning like we have so many stories that we've heard from great grandparents and grandparents, you know, of how they were treated. But then even in death, you know, it's really something. I had a story that kind of just moved me a little bit, and I'm just talking about just in death, and it was 7 Black men were accused of rape with accusations of rape of a white woman, and they were executed in 1951. And the evidence now was the case was opened back up just more recently, and they just got a pardon just recently. They just got a pardon. These 7 men were Black men were executed just because of an allegation of rape to a white woman, and they just received a small level of justice. I mean, you know, you're talking, you know, all of these years later, almost 70 years later.
After they did,
almost 70 years later, you know, saying now my name is finally halfway being cleared. You know, and so, you know, it's just looking at the level that society thinks it's okay to handle us. And and so even in death, meaning I can't have a dignified death and stay there. You're gonna dig me up and you're gonna try to disrespect me even after I have died indignant. you know, and you're going to try to even disrespect, you know, the service that finally put me to rest, meaning I can't even rest in peace.
Exactly.
I still have to freedom fight even after I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? I have to have an advocate to fight for me even after I'm dead and in the ground. Do you see how powerful that just sounds? I mean, you know that I have to continue to fight for my freedom and respect, even after I have been put to rest. You know, and it doesn't matter if I was a person that was digging ditches and, you know, or picking cotton, or it doesn't matter if I was a person that helped design the Capitol. I still, you know, because of my color, I still may have to fight to be able to just rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
And so, excellent story. Excellent story.
They act they act like they think that we don't matter in life or death. You know, nobody will care, nobody will notice. It doesn't make a difference. You know, it takes a special kind of evil to disturb a grave.
Come on,
disturb a person's final resting place. I mean, some things is nothing sacred. You know, nothing is sacred in life. Nothing is sacred in death. I mean, we already know that we live in a society where people have little to no respect for a life. And now they don't even respect us in death. You know,
right.
that is just so crazy, and that they just arbitrarily go around doing these things and think that it's okay. Nobody will care. Nobody will notice.
Yesterday, I had a seminar that y'all know I work for the Ravens, and they had a type of seminar. I think this was to address how the staff supervisors feel in regards to racial issues, fans that might have racial issues and that kind of thing. And they had us, you know, come on. It was about 150 people in a Zoom call because of the weather. And, you know, we had people to actually, and these are people that I so-called work with, that came on and was saying stuff like, why can't people just come and enjoy and have fun? Why do we have to bring politics into sports? What, you know, and I was getting angry. I just, after a while, I wanted to say what I wanted to say, but then I said, if I say something, you know, they'll probably say that I'm being, you know, aggressive or whatever. But after a while, I was like, I don't even care for this little bit of money they paying me. And I told them, I said, look, I said, y'all might think that politics should not be involved in sports. I said, but if you look at what the Ravens do around the community, you know, they're involved in community issues. They give money, they give backpacks, they go out into the community and express their dislike for injustice. Absolutely. So why shouldn't, you know, these issues be part of sports? What do you know? And it really opened my eyes a little bit about the people that you work with. You know, because I mean, as this Black Lives Matter movement came about, I even on Facebook had to address certain people that I used to work with who I thought, you know, were of the same mindset. They were Caucasian, but I thought they were of an equal mindset, you know, but I really had to open my eyes a bit, you know, because I do say that I was brought up in a household where it was like, do unto others as they do unto you, and everybody is created equal, and you know, as long as you treat a person a certain way, they should treat, you know, that's the way I was brought up. until I think probably the riots, Martin Luther King riots is my first experience. Secondly, when I became an EMT and I was trying to help a lady in a crashed car, a white lady, and she hollered, "Get that end away from me." Here I am, a paramedic trying to help you, and you okay. So, and then, so that was like my real first two tastes of racial injustice. And then now, yesterday, again, it opens my eyes even more.
Yeah.
I don't hold anything against, people, you're entitled to your opinion, but I don't have to have you around.
That's very true. Gina, some of this stuff, no matter how many times that you hear it, it's still a shock to the system. I was reading a story this morning about anybody that know Dog the Bounty Hunter from that TV series, and he was on it talking about how his daughter, from his wife that died, accused him of being a racist, a homophobic person, and a cheater. And he said, the gentleman who was interviewing him, who was I can't remember his name, but it was the black guy that's on ET. He said, well, we going back to 15 years ago when you made a statement. They had this recording of him talking on the phone to his son, and oh Lord, he was using the N-word so freely you would never believe it. And he said that it's not funny, but some things are so sad until you just have to chuckle. He said that he thought that he had a pass to use the N-word because when he was locked up, him and the black tribe used this word as a term of endearment. So the black tribe gave him permission to use the word, and he didn't know that the permission had expired. I said, first of all, who in the same hell is the black tribe? That's the first thing I wanted to know. And secondly, you may not have a degree from Harvard. You may not have a PhD like that, but in your right mind, in your wildest dream, you could have not thought that that was acceptable. And even with people of color to one another that use the word, it's not, it's not in good taste. And how could you think? He said he did not know that his permission to use the word had expired. My jaw was just on the floor with that one. Like, are you really serious right now? I was waiting for Ashton Kutcher to jump out and say he was being punked or something like that, because I knew that this man could not possibly have come out. First of all, somebody should have told him about the black tribe. Somebody should have started there. And like these things that just, you can't, people can't be that naive. People can't be that slow. They can't be that dense. Some things just common sense dictates that some things you just don't say or do.
That don't make any sense. You're talking about expired. He never had the pass in the first place.
That's it.
You never had the pass in the first place. Now, if you have an individual that he's okay with you just calling him that every day, and that's your friend, then he ain't part, as far as I'm concerned, of the black community. That's just him.
Right. And guess what he said? Guess what he said?
That's just the ignorant dude that you deal with.
Real talk.
Like that. You know what I'm saying? You don't get no blanket pass. You know what I'm saying? To say that to people you don't know, about people you don't deal with, you know what I'm saying, people that's not in your circle, and all this. You don't get no blanket pass, you know what I'm saying, on anything. No way.
And even the people who claim that, it's okay in their circle, we all understand no matter what our color, that some things are about the context in which they're used.
True.
When he was on that phone call with his son, it wasn't like, hey, dapping it up, my dude. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't used in that context. It was used in a racial context. And then all of a sudden you want to come back and act like you don't know. And then he used the famous cliche. He said, I have a lot of black friends. He said, I got more black friends than Eminem. I said,
That's the same thing Hulk Hogan said when he had said all of this stuff about his daughter. She recorded him talking about a black guy she was dealing with, and he was calling him, every N word he possibly could. And he said, and you know what he said? He didn't know that he was being recorded. He said the exception is if he's playing basketball, making millions and millions of dollars. He said, at least I could understand that. So he was saying that I guess if you the N-word, you can buy your way into this family. But other than you being a millionaire, you know what I'm saying, it ain't, you can't, meaning like you can't just chase him because he packing or because he look good or because, you know what I'm saying, he got a nice personality. He got to be a millionaire to buy his pass into this family.
That's the same thing I say about them daggone Kardashians. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go after these black men, but look at the ones they go after, the ones with the dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they love some black men though.
They couldn't go after Tyrone on the corner. No. They
right.
gotta have that's it. It's all about money. It's all about money. They would not be accepted if they didn't have any money. Kanye, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
You ain't joking about that one though.
And you know what? It says something about the black men to me that knowing this, you still fall into this trap. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that you know for a fact that this is not an environment where somebody loves you for your personality or because of who you are. You know that you bought your way into this situation. And yet still you jump in there loud and proud. And just like we always say, this is not a white show, this is not a black show, but we speak facts. Mm-hmm. And you jumping in there knowing good and well that the predominant color in your relationship is green. So it's a sad state of affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I feel that some brothers, we need to have a class to train them, in certain things. I mean,
adjust your volume.
I have literally talked to, and I'm saying brothers, but I'm using it loosely. To brothers who literally would be proud to tell me that they only deal with white women or they're chasing them, and I don't understand that. And I'm just like, well, who did you come from? Do you love your mother? Do you love, because sometimes, women want to marry somebody like their father. That's why it's very important for children to see healthy relationships and not abusive ones, but if you're saying you only want to date, a white woman, saying, and that you have put all black sisters as being the angry black woman and you can't deal with them, then to me, you have just really missed the boat with certain things. There's a certain level of self-hate that's going on with you. There's a certain level of self-hate where, you don't feel that your own race is good enough. And I think that that's such an unfortunate situation, because even if you were in 7 relationships and they didn't work out and they were all black, I mean, that means you only had 7 women. Now you've condemned the entire world of people of color.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's like, you need to really check that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Doc, adjust your volume again.
Okay.
And that is so very true. And the thing that always baffles the mind with me is that in order for them to date someone that looks like their mother, she got to have the best job, the best car. She got to be the finest. She got to look like Nicki Minaj. You know what I'm saying? Their standards are so high. And I'm just going to keep it real. Nobody may like this, but how I do. But they can date a woman of one of the wonderful people and be the fat slob walking around in South Baltimore with no shoes on, fools. I mean, just the whole nine, every stereotype that you can think of. They don't mind, because she's the right color. They think it's a status symbol. And I'm like, who raised you? Who raised you? As a mother of two young black men, I would not have a problem if either of my sons dated a Caucasian person. But I would definitely have a problem if they told me that they only dated Caucasian women. I would have a problem with that because you know what I'm saying? You have to look deeper than what's on the surface. And that's not a status symbol. It's not going to get you any further in life. And just like you said, Doc, that just demonstrates a level of self-hate. You don't like yourself if you don't like people that look like you.
Yeah, it's so sad, and you can really tell it because of how some of their opinions are of what's going on in our communities and what's going on in certain situations, and it's so opinionated of just feeling that everybody can just pull themselves up with their own bootstraps and they just need to get jobs and pull their pants up and get rid of those gold teeth and they don't understand the level of hate and the level of abuse that maybe some people have seen. And then we're one of the only, I'm saying, groups, and I'm saying this, we don't have mass Black history educational schools. Our foundation is not, and when we go to public school, U.S. history is mandatory, but U.S. history starts Black history with slavery. And we don't really, and so a person really to truly be able to thrive, you have to love yourself. You have to embrace where you come from and your history. And because they say if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so, we have to really focus on being able to educate, saying our youth, just the same way that the Indians have their culture, the same way that the Jewish community have their culture, the same way that people want to talk about they done came from Ireland or I'm from Australia and different things of that nature. We need to be able to show what we believe in and that what we love. And I think that would be something to help change, how people handle each other, how we deal with each other. To me, it's harder to pull that trigger if you feel that that's a person that's related to me down the road. It would be harder if he's more than if he say, that brother, instead of saying that nigga, instead of saying that, I think that if we embrace teaching our children this, and then our children's children, so that they would see, that we have a place here, that we're not just a mistake, and I really think that even the crime would be different. Even the crime would be different. And so, it's unfortunate when I run into people and talk to them and they have such an opinionated position against their own race that they are a part of. It's like you're not a visitor here, you Black. You're not visiting being Black. And so that's it's an unfortunate thing, but I remember being in elementary school and there was a guy that sat next to me in class and he was trying to tell the teacher that he was like, well, I ain't Black. He was like, I got Indian in my family. I'm Indian. And she was just like, let me tell you something. She said, if you are 1/8 Black, you are Black. That's actually even in the law. You know what I'm saying? That going, that's actually in the law, going back, to Dred Scott and also Plessy versus Ferguson. And so, and that's pretty much just how that is. And so, all of that stuff. I mean, so when you have that, we have to be able to embrace, who we are. And I think that it's going to have to start with teaching people to love each other, to teaching them to love yourself first, to teaching them to love yourself. So it's we got a lot of work to do.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think about, like the fact that a lot of people think once emancipation or whatever, that we were free. We're not free. We may have some freedoms, but we're not free yet.
Absolutely not.
We were free before we were slaves.
Yeah.
We were kings and queens before there was slavery.
Yes.
Good morning, Sheila.
Before slavery, we were the ones in control.
Yeah.
And so the fact that people, well, we free. No, we not. No, we not. We still struggling. We still struggling to be free.
Yes, we are. Everybody, I apologize this morning. I don't know what's going on with the sound, though. Everybody sound a little jinky, but just bear with me, Doc and Gina. Y'all try to adjust your mics a little bit. I don't know if I sound crazy to y'all too, but we getting some feedback this morning.
Okay.
But that is so true, Gina. That is so very, very true. We've been. This is, it's an ongoing.
I'm like slave when we were so-called emancipated, slave owners were paid because they lost us. They got I guess you would call it reparations or whatever, because they lost their livestock. That's basically the bottom line. They received money because they lost us.
Right.
People, and that's what I try to tell young folk. Y'all were treated as like a chair or a piece of fabric.
Right.
You weren't valuable. You were valuable in the means that you were giving the slave master more money, but you weren't valuable to them.
Absolutely not. Not valuable and never valued. Never valued.
So when I read stories about like these gravestones and everything, it just, like Doc said, here we are, and the 7 people men that they've been executed. They've been executed. And here now, they're being exonerated for crimes they never committed.
Mm-hmm.
Executed over 70 years. That's hurtful. That is really, really hurtful.
Yes, it is.
7 black men.
That's
7 black men.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
And they valued the life of 7 cows more than they did those 7 black men.
Exactly.
Just slaughtered them with no proof, no due justice, no nothing. Just
Nothing.
just on a basis of an accusation. And
That's
we all know that some people, every time they open their lips, they lie. So we got it was not important to make sure that the accusations were true. Just all they got to do is be said by the right person, and there is over. It's over for you.
Like Emmett, it's the same thing with Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
Later on they find out that the accusation was false.
Mm-hmm.
But what? I mean, they can't bring him back.
Absolutely.
I wanted them to get her. I wanted them to take her out of that hospital bed because they said she was dying at the time and she told the truth on her deathbed. I wanted them to process her and lock her up.
Yeah.
Take her. I would take the hospital bed, and I wanted to take the hospital bed to central booking and lock her up. You know what I'm saying? Let her die in jail.
Right.
You know
they got a prison ward.
I think that is so. I mean, we don't understand really the full ramifications of them just being able to do that. Who takes a child and plucks his eye out? Who takes a child and strangles him and cuts him? And that's why his mother wanted the world to see how they had treated him. Like, who does that to a child? You know what I'm saying? You're talking about 14, 15 years old. So they're not able to really even drive yet. They can't get married. They can't drink alcohol, but we can hang them until his eye pops out and mutilate his body, you know, for an accusation. For an accusation. You know, and it takes years later to try to seek just a percentage of justice. And I think that that's unfortunate. I was looking at this young man now, and I don't know if you know the cases. I'm trying to think of his last name. His name is Elijah, and I'm gonna say McCain.
Yeah, that's the topic that I was going to discuss today, Doc.
I ain't gonna get on it then.
I'm gonna put it up. We can go right on and get into
it. We have to go through so much even after death. You know, even after death, you won't even let us rest, you know, in peace. And I just think that that is such an unfortunate, you know, situation. And the way it's damaged, I think even some of our own people, as I seen brothers who, when they in college, that sister that's helped them out with their papers and helped them to get through them classes and stuff. And then they signed with a professional football team, and then they went and got a white girl like they didn't, you know, like she was the prize. And so you ended up, you know what I'm saying, really not really being able to appreciate that sister that worked hard, that held it down for you. And then now that you feel a little bit better about yourself because you have money. Money has now made you a real man. You know, you try to get something that was supposed to be taboo in your mind, forbidden, the forbidden fruit, but you feel that now you are at a level to financially get what you want. And I think that is such a smack in the face because it's like you don't really get it. Now, if you love somebody, I don't care what color it is, you do what you got to do, but don't chase a race. You know what I'm saying? To just try to keep up with the Joneses.
Right. Absolutely. And just like I was saying, I wanted to talk about the officers and paramedics that were indicted in the death of Elijah McClain. Now, if anybody remembers, Elijah McClain was the young man who was, this was in Aurora, and Colorado, and the Colorado Attorney General said on Wednesday that a grand jury indicted 3 police officers and 2 paramedics in the killing of Elijah McClain, a black man who was put in a chokehold and injected with a powerful sedative 2 years ago in suburban Denver. Elijah McClain was a 23-year-old massage therapist, for those of you who don't know, and he was, just a gentle, kind introvert as described by his family and friends. And he just was walking down the street, minding his own business, coming home from the store, and somebody called 911 and said that he was walking down the street and he had a face mask on and he seemed sketchy, whatever that means. And his family said he wore the mask because he was anemic and he always stayed very cold. So the police body camera showed The police approaching him saying, stop, right there, stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious. Now, mind you, walking down the street with his headphones on, minding his own business, was being suspicious. And in the video, the officer touched him on the shoulder and told him, stop tensing up. And as the officers joined in to restrain him, he asked them to let him go and says, you guys started to arrest me and I was stopping my music to listen. The body camera shows that he was trying to explain himself. Of course, nobody was listening, as they usually are not. And he was just and he said to the officers, I'm just different. I'm just different. That's all. That's all I was doing. I'm so sorry. I have no gun. I don't do that stuff. I don't do any fighting. Why were you attacking me? I don't do guns. I don't even kill flies. I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. You know, the paramedics arrived and they gave him 500 milligrams of ketamine, which was more than 1.5 times the dose for his weight. And within 5 minutes, he stopped breathing. And he died 6 days later, being declared brain dead and taken off of life support. So now they have decided, originally they didn't want to charge, indict, or anything. But now they have indicted 3 officers and 2 paramedics. And of course, you know, there was one who resigned, which is always that little coward's way out. And they just getting around to taking some legal action for the death of this young man. Now, I have so many issues with this until it's not even funny. First of all, I want to know what a person looks like that's being sketchy when they're walking down the street. You know, some of these things that these officers respond to just baffles the mind, because I don't even think that should have warranted a response from the police department. Somebody's walking down the street and they're looking sketchy. What exactly does that mean? How does a sketchy person look? Last time I checked, there was no law against wearing a face mask because you were cold in the winter. Now, if it's 100 degrees outside and somebody walking down the street with a mask over their face, then yeah, they might have a point about looking sketchy. But come on, you know, this young man, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys remember when this story first hit, but when they showed this body camera footage, he was not resisting, he was not fighting, he was not doing anything but merely trying to find out what's going on. You know, why are you arresting me? What did I do? You know, they never found a weapon on him. They never, and then for the paramedics to come and decide that they want to inject him with ketamine, I mean, what was the justification for that? What was the justification for that? Because before you inject a person with any kind of sedative or give them any kind of medication, you should have some knowledge of person, unless it is an extreme emergency. You don't know what kind of medical conditions this person had. You don't know what kind of adverse effects that this may have. I mean, this is so many pieces, moving pieces to this injustice. Sugar Mama Jones said, I'm sure they said an African American male was walking and looking sketchy. That's why the approach was what it was. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're not going to tell us that. And then she said it took 2 years to do what they know they should have done. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Like, just slaughtering black men in the street like cattle just because somebody says, I mean, you're sketchy. I need to even look that up in the dictionary and find out what exactly is sketchy, because I'm not getting it. This is, you know, this whole thing was just disturbing to me. And this man was a slightly built man. You know, in the case of George Floyd, they said, oh, he was so big, he was high, he was this, he was that. Well, this man couldn't have wore more than 135 pounds soaking wet. You know, so that was, you can't use that, you know, and they always talking about that these things are not racially motivated. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. How can you, with a straight face, look anybody in the eye and say that they're not? Because just like Sugar Mama Jones said, they said somebody walking down the street looking sketchy. Trust and believe. I bet my bottom dollar on the fact that they said it was a black man walking down the street with a mask on and he looked sketchy. And you know, Aurora, as I'm sure that Doc know, this is a place that's had its fair share of problems with the police department as far as racism goes. You know? You muted,
You're
Doc.
muted.
Doc.
I'm sorry. You know, I said I'm gonna tell you, this is what bothers me out of all of the body cams that I have seen of how people have been mistreated. This was to me the most gross injustice that I have almost ever seen. If you see this young man's demeanor, you know, you could tell him he's a little special.
Right.
And that's what makes him special. He played the violin. He was excellent at it. This young man, you know, was a vegan. He just didn't believe in even hurting ants and flies, and you know, and it just bothered me to. I really feel that the person who called the police on him should be charged.
Thank you.
Now that I know that's probably some people say, oh, that's taking it extreme. I feel they should be held accountable.
Yes.
Because this is where the interaction started.
Yes.
And then the police should have been trained much better to notice when some people are artistic or just do not act what they call normal. See, being abnormal don't make it illegal. It's not illegal to be abnormal.
Right.
We need more young men that's like that.
Right. They say this young
don't
man
believe in violence. They say that, you know what I'm saying, you know, demeanor is different.
They said that he played his violin at the shelter for homeless cats.
For the animals. For the animals.
Come on.
I'm gonna tell you, I ain't no crying dude, but watching that, it almost had me in tears. I didn't know if I was more angry or more hurt to watch them do this to this young man. I'm telling you, I wanted to get in my car and drive to any march that they were going to have against it. And to even take this long for them to be indicted, it's been over 2 years, and they held the information and the body cam footage for over a year. They didn't even want to give it to the family, the lawyers, or nothing. They had to fight for the truth.
Right.
They had to just fight for what really happened. We are supposed to be able to videotape police officers doing their job. That's one of our legal rights, that we have the right to videotape somebody doing their job. We have the right to videotape a bus driver just driving his bus. We have the right to watch a person at the drive-thru at McDonald's just handing people food. We have the right to. That's a public place, and they're doing a legal job.
Absolutely, and that's what people fail to realize. There's no expectation of privacy
from the family. Trying to keep the information from the family and from society of something, but you feel that y'all were in right. You were doing your job and you did everything above board. What would be the harm in us seeing what you did?
Absolutely, Doc. And one thing that people have to realize is that, you know, it's only illegal to videotape people in situations where they have a reasonable expectation of privacy. You know, when you're out in the public, you do not have any expectation of privacy. You're in a public place.
Exactly. When I saw that footage, I really felt bad for the fact that, you know, number one, he didn't fight back. Had he fought back, he probably would have been killed on the spot. But the fact that, you know, he did exactly what they told him to do. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but you lose your life anyway. Anyway, it's really a kind of a catch-22 situation. I mean, do you do the right thing, obey what the officer says? He did, and he still died.
That is so sad. I'm gonna tell you that is so hurting to see that situation. And the thing is, do you know that the boy, he actually had a moment where after they was choking him, he actually vomited. He threw up.
Yeah.
And the boy was apologizing. He said, "I'm sorry." He was halfway out of breath. He's apologizing because they choked him and he vomited. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they still and to have no compassion, like that was your child. Like everyone there, I'm sure some of them have children. How would you have wanted your child to be handled, whether they was right or wrong? And he was 100% right. How would you have wanted your child to be handled? This young man at no time, and you're trying to tell me that I guess it was 4 officers on the scene. Was it 4 officers or
Yeah.
It was 4 officers on the scene and 3 paramedics. Y'all couldn't handle a boy weighing 130 some pounds. You with all of the training, with the baton, every weapon that you have. You had 4 grown men and then an extra 3, and y'all could not subdue and just get him in cuffs without having to choke him until he threw up and then inject him to where he died. I think that's showing what type. I mean, unfortunately, it's going to take people to change what is going on out here, because right now, this shouldn't be a representation of how we're treated in America at this day and age.
Absolutely not. And then the whole thing, that another part that always baffles me is that even when these people get charged, the charges that they get, they always charge it with manslaughter, aggravated assault. Let's just call a spade a spade. Murder is murder. No matter how you want to dress it up, no matter how many pretty bows and glitter you want to put on it, you murdered a man. So you should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Let's not go and try to find these little cushy, fluffy charges, because had the shoe been on the other foot, it would have been balls to the wall. You going down. No question asked. This was not manslaughter.
Nope. Not in any stretch of the imagination. It's just, I mean, he just think of the fact that, what do you have to wear? A tag across your chest to say I'm autistic, or a banner to say I'm just walking down the street from the store.
Right.
I mean, what?
And what? This is just a failure just all the way across the system. First of all, if the starting with the operator, what does sketchy mean? What is he doing that's causing concern for you? That way, when you pass the message on to whatever first responder is going to respond, then they can kind of have some idea of what's going on before they get to the scene, and maybe needs, if they're available, take mental health professionals, or they say he was waving his hands or whatever. First of all, he was listening to music, and it's just a failure all the way across the board, because everybody failed this young man. The officers, the paramedics, the operator, and even down to, just like Doc said, the person that made the call. Everybody should be held accountable, because this was just a senseless death. It was senseless. And what do you do if you comply and then you still come out on the losing end? And then they want to know why young men of color, as soon as they see the police, they run. They running for their life. They running for their life.
When you got people that are calling the police because they are lying. Here you are in the park taking pictures of birds, and somebody calls the police and lying, saying that they're being attacked by a black man in the park. You know, can you imagine the fear that must have been in that man? Fortunately, if he had not had a camera phone to document what was going on, he'd be in jail right now or dead. Right now.
Right. And I just think, like, in that case, when people make those kind of false allegations against people, I think that there should be a stiffer penalty for them. You know, they just get a slap on the wrist, and a lot of these fictitious calls set these chain of events into motion. And these people know that that's what they're trying to do. You know, so it should be a stiffer penalty for them, not just, oh, my bad, or no charges or whatever, because a lot of these situations can end, they can be another Elijah McCain.
Exactly.
It's so sad, and to be real honest with you, if a person watches that body cam, and if they get to that part where he's just saying, I'm just different. I'm just different. I'm not like everybody. I'm gonna tell you, I think I wish that the officers could watch that, and I wish that their families could watch that. Just that part, he's trying to plead with them, because I wish that he was in a position to articulate that I'm coming from the store, but I wanted to buy ginger ale, and I wear a mask because I'm a Negro. I'm not going to make any sudden moves. I'm going to let you search me and see that I'm giving you the permission. I'm not doing anything. And he wasn't able to articulate that because he was just special.
Right.
And he was unique, and that's what makes this world unique and special. Because we got people like that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, you know, that is one of the most horrific things that I have ever seen. Not no gangster, not no thug, not no gang banger trying to run from the police and trying to get over, but just a young man just saying, I'm just different. You know, and that's unfortunate.
And now it's even a crime to be different. It's a crime to be different. And, you know, and even though, you know, with his state of mind or with his challenges, he may not have been able to articulate, but sometimes in these situations, it's also difficult to articulate because these people are paralyzed with fear. You know, can you imagine that you walking down the street with headphones on, listening to some music, getting a ginger ale, and then all of a sudden you turn around and here come 4 or 5 police officers running down on you? I mean, he probably couldn't even think straight.
Yeah.
And part of that sentence should be to make them watch that tape every day. If they go to jail, they should make them look at that every single day.
That should be part of, I think that should be part of the academy's training, to watch that video and to see what not to do. I think that should be part of the training. I actually just wrote a chapter of a book of why Black people should train police officers that police their communities. I just did my chapter, and it shows how they're using a model that does not fit our community, and we have to go back to community policing where officers actually care about the children that may be out there riding them bikes or on that corner and everything else. You know, because maybe if you show them something different, they might do something different. And
Yeah.
so, you know, and so children at one point saw officer friendly. But now you have young children, elementary school. They run from the police. They scared of the police.
Hide. Mm-hmm.
Terrified of them. I mean, and they should not be terrified, meaning like, you know, I had somebody, I think we were at one of the amusement parks, and I was like, well, I had some youth with me. Well, if you get separated, and they was like, what should you do? And somebody was like, you know, what should we go to? The person in the uniform? They was like, no. They was like, no, they don't go to nobody in no uniform. They was like, you just walk right past it. So you have a child that's saying, if I'm lost, I don't want to go to the officer because something might happen to me if I'm lost. I mean, that shows just how their mentality is processing how an interaction can go, just interacting with a police officer. Not even doing a crime, though. Not even if you're doing a crime, if you just interact with them. And we have to kind of do something so that they can have faith in the system that we're supposed to follow by.
It's terrible.
It is, and it's so unfortunate, and it just make me sick to my stomach that we have to even sit down and have these conversations with our children. You know, of how they should act if they stop by the police, to not make any sudden movements or do this or do that. You know, I know Doc know because he worked with young people. You know, you got to, and he has small children. You got to have these kind of conversations with your children. I mean, it just makes me physically ill to think about the fact that the people that we charge to protect and serve us, that we have to have these conversations with our children. It shouldn't be. You know, when we were all growing up or whatever, we were taught that, you know, the police were there to help you. You know, we were taught that if anything ever go wrong, you can go to the police. But now, you know, you got children as young as 4 and 5 years old. They are terrified of the police. You know, they may not process the same way that adults do, but don't think that they don't understand all of these George Floyds and Elijah McClains and all of these Sandra, you know, they understand these things. You know, they understand in a way that a child should that a child understands, which makes it even scarier because all they know is what they see. You know, all they know, they see these stories on the news over and over. They see these marches and demonstrations and all of this stuff. And the central theme that they see in all of these is that the police are hurting people.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just a you know, a sad state of affairs that's going on these days. So this is why we pray. This is why we play. But one, go ahead, Gina.
No, and you know, I agree with you 100%. It's just sometimes, you know, you listen to all of these stories, and sometimes people may feel, well, what can I do? Well, look at Doc. Look at what he does. Look him up. Look at the videos. That's what you do. You tell your story. You tell people and help them and motivate them to lift their bootstraps and lift themselves up and help their communities. That's what you do. Don't be quiet. Don't be complacent with what's going on. You know, people go about their daily lives and say, "Oh, I'm just going to work. I'm making my money. My house is secure, whatever." But 4 doors down might be a whole different scenario. You know, talk to people, communicate, find out what's going on in somebody's life and see if you can help. You know, sometimes it doesn't take a lot. You might just need to provide them with a meal that evening, just that evening, to get them
Yeah.
through to the next day. Sometimes it might just be conversation to keep them from using drugs. Sometimes it might be just, helping somebody out with a dollar or two so that they can go get a clean shirt for an interview the next day.
Mm-hmm.
It might be little things. We've all got to do our part. We've got to. This is just, the injustices of the past. I mean, one of the ladies that was at one of these grave sites that I was talking about earlier, she said, I can't change the past. Because they were asking her, like, weren't you angry and blah, blah, blah. She was like, I can't change the past, but I can change the future. So that's what we need to do. We need to inject whatever we can to change the future. And I believe that podcasts like this, where we share our experiences and our stories and our history, helps. And it may be in a very small way, but it helps. We need to communicate and tell our children, you were kings and queens. You weren't just slaves. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Gina. I couldn't agree more. Well, we have been here. I always accuse Maurice of being the one that make us have these hour and a half, 2 hour shows, but I see that it happens even when he's not here. So I'm gonna have to take that back. He always trying to find some kind of way to make me eat my words. So there you go, Maurice. I know you watching. It wasn't you this time. That was us talking it up. But we had a few sound issues today, but I think some great topics and some great points were made. Sugar Mama Jones is always in here telling us that, about she has small children. So these are important topics for us to broach, and to even talk with our viewers, our podcast community about, because as she said, these are very difficult conversations that had to have with children because they just can't understand. Their minds are not wired that way to understand the kind of injustices that they face just simply because of the color of their skin. So, and a small, whatever, every little bit helps. And I think that this is a valuable resource that just, even if it just touches a few people, to have
That's
a
right.
few people to be able to voice their opinions and, to learn some, we always have Doc here who works with young people to teach us some coping strategies and things that we can do and everything. So, I think that it's valuable, and I'm always so thankful for everybody who is here with us faithfully, that lets us into their home, their car, their office, or wherever they're watching and listening from, because these conversations like these are so important. They are so important. And, we always waiting for somebody else to do for us what we should do for ourselves. If we want our communities to change, it has to start with us. So in our way, in our own small way, we doing our part here on Simply Us, and I appreciate everybody that jumps in here with us and toughs this thing out and just is of value. A lot of people may not get a chance to watch as we tape live, but they go back and they watch, and they get some really valuable, just some food for thought, if nothing else. Because the action has to begin in your mind. So they have to start thinking about these things and not thinking that these problems are going to resolve themselves, because they won't. So, any final thoughts, Gina?
Well, I want to say this was a great show today. I want to say that we will not have Did You Know tomorrow. I just want to, let our viewing audience know. And we've moved everything that I did. I'm joining Cece on Wednesdays now at 11 o'clock. So join us on our focus on Black businesses. And Cece will be sharing her Nature's Secrets new skincare line, and I'll be sharing some of my paparazzi accessories. And
I got my paparazzi hoops on today, y'all.
All right, now I see you. And so I just, I really want to say that this show has really been a blessing to me. Doc, what's on your agenda coming up?
Well, just real quick, I did want to just share. I'll be doing a youth conference that's being held in Bermuda next week. On the 8th with boys and trying to assist and help and different things. So some of that's actually going to be virtual that people could actually attend. I'm gonna share some of that on my page, but I really just wanted to just give a shout out to all of my family. My father's from Louisiana, so I have a lot of family in New Orleans and things, and they really got hit hard, with this storm that was actually stronger than Katrina. And it just kind of bothered me a little bit because when all the electricity was off and everything, and people were trying to get water and they went into some of the stores to get it, it's like they were saying that they were looting when they needed to get water and supplies, and the places weren't open, but they were open to get in. And so, like nobody broke in, nobody was going into, trying to steal furniture or flat screen TVs. They were trying to get food. And so, I've seen it when they're in its other areas and it's a different color or different race. They say that people are getting supplies and just getting supplies after the storm. And then they say, you see how the language is, saying, so people trying to get bottled waters for their family, they're looters, saying, in the middle of a storm and everything is closed down and they can't even drive anywhere because a lot of the roads are closed down either by trees or because the water is waist deep, And so, I got people that are trying to charge their phone from going in the car, and they're trying to sit in the car to just turn the air conditioner on for a little bit because it's over 105 degrees and there's no air conditioning. So, and see, and I have an aunt that is 93 years old in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I have another aunt that is 99 and she is coming up on 100 and they have no air conditioning. So I think that sometimes we have to hold the media accountable on how they really address certain situations. I think that it needs to be across the board for everything. You know what I'm saying? Don't just say, oh, these people here, they're getting supplies, because y'all were in Florida, you know what I'm saying, in certain areas, and so now, you know what I'm saying, they're just getting supplies. But when you're in Louisiana and you see black people coming out with bottles of water, they're looting. They're looters. I feel that that's wrong. I feel that they have to do better than that, and so we have to, really see that this is a serious, situation, and we have to be sympathetic and empathetic, saying about what people are going through. Because really, if you're not prepared for a storm and all of your stuff get washed away, I don't know how much you would have left. But I would hope that if you were in 105 degrees and you go get your auntie that's 93 years old a bottle of water, that somebody would not see you as a looter or a person that would not pay for water, if they had the opportunity to. We have to, really hold them accountable. I really don't like when they do that. Because I saw it on the news and I said, they was like, looters are going, you ask people with water. You know what I'm saying? You know, and y'all need to stop that, because when they hit West Palm Beach and they had people going in stores and different things of that nature, they talking about, you see people getting supplies, they're just getting supplies. Then you in Louisiana, you see somebody with a scarf on their head and they black, you know what I'm saying? You see them, oh, they're looters. And so, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but
No,
I feel some kind of way about that. And maybe it's because it's also a little personal. You know, my family is from Louisiana. That's where my father's from. My mother's from Mississippi. And so, you know, I just, you know, really feel a major connection with what's going on.
And
Well,
just like Sugar Mama Jones said, they like to change the narrative. And you know, when they do that, that sets up a lot of these situations that result in violence. You know, because the media has already planted that seed that
Right.
these are looters. You know, so when the police come on the scene, you know, they coming for looters. You know, they not coming. How can you loot water? You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't even be a thing. You know, it's we need water to live. So that should not even be a word that's used in connection with somebody as hot as it is in Louisiana trying to get some water. But you know, they set these situations up, and then when they play out the way that they play out, everybody always want to act like, oh my God, I can't believe that this happened. But one thing for sure, and two for certain, that they have to realize that the generation that they're dealing with now, this not the people from what the civil rights movement. You know, you hit them, they gonna hit you back. You know, you want to fight, they want to fight too. You know, I mean, it's a whole different mentality, and we should not even be up at arms. We should really be standing in solidarity with these people and trying to see if there's anything that any of us can do to help.
Right. My son even wants to get some donations to see how we can send something down there, and you know, or just how we can help or whatever. I mean, it's, you know, and I'm glad that I have my son. You know, I want them to have a heart for people. We have to look out for each other. We have to look out for each other, because you might need today, but I might need tomorrow. And so, you know, we have to care about our fellow man, you know, and just can't be out for self. So, you know, I just say, as people out there in podcast land, as Party may say, you know, let's just go in and, you know, we have to, you know, really look out, you know, for one another, you know, and then they could run tell that.
Right. And one thing, Doc, you know, we always here. We're a team and a family here. So if anything, you know, whatever it is that's going on that you and the family are doing to support the family in Louisiana, you know, we're on board. You know, anybody else that want to help make a donation, anything that you can do, you know, we'll pass everything along to Doc, because, you know, it's important. Just look at what just happened here yesterday. You know what I'm saying? You know, today Louisiana, tomorrow Baltimore County. Yesterday it was Annapolis. You know what I'm saying? Exactly.
Yeah,
So
New Jersey and New York. Yep.
Right. Don't think that you exempt. Don't think that it can't happen to you. And just like Doc said, you know, we all need to have a heart for one another, because you never know when you may be the one in need. None of these wonderful things, the ability to sit back, as my husband say, to do podcasts and eat bonbons, they're not promised to us. You know, they're not promised to us. These are acts of nature. You know, nothing could have told us that tornadoes would touch down on the ground in Annapolis yesterday. You know, but it happened. It did. You know, so we gotta, in this situation in Louisiana, we know what happened with the other hurricanes. You know, we know how slow that the recovery is, especially for people of color. You know, so we have to jump in there and do what we can and stand in solidarity with Louisiana.
Yep, they're saying it's probably going to be months before Louisiana is back even to substandard.
Right.
It's terrible.
And
I
seeing all of
saw.
those names that they say, I like we have a family, part of our family, they have Richardson Funeral Home down there. We also have a restaurant that's down there, in Hammond and Slidell. And when I hear these names, you know what I'm saying, Baton Rouge, that's where my family is down there, and so, to hear people just say that, people are looters. And when I'm talking to people on the phone, they're telling me that, the stores are saying they can't even ring you up. And so they saying that they have closed down, a lot of the stores, and people are really, long lines with gas, and people are siphoning gas to take out of cars to put in generators because they trying to run the air conditioner. I mean, so it's just bothersome, to make it seem like people are. See, when you say looter, it makes you think somebody is taking a flat screen TV and running down the street, and everything else. And I'm just like, people are trying to survive.
And you know what's the saddest? The saddest part.
What was he doing? He said, "Well, I'm flying down there and I'm bringing some of the water that I make, down there, and I'm going to help give it out." Now, that's the kind of answer I want to hear. Saying, that somebody is going to try to do something. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm going to do something. And so, but it's just also the more about the story was also the narrative that was being put out. Saying stop calling these people that want water and that want food supplies looters. Because you don't do it when it happens in West Palm Beach. You don't do it when it's in Paradise, California. And when they had the people that had the fires and they couldn't get into the store and they broke the window and they got supply, they just getting supplies. Then you need to say the same thing about Black people in the 8th Ward and in the 9th Ward and in Slidell and in Woodlawn in Louisiana. You need to say the same thing. You got people trying to get supplies because they're trying to live in a heat wave with water that's waist deep.
Absolutely.
So you got some people that had to finish riding it out in their attic because the water had gotten so high. And so, and see that people don't have basements there because of the water.
Right.
That's why most of the graveyards, you have to get a tube over top of it. You know what I'm saying? So you can't. They don't dig down, below 6 deep and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's made like a bowl. New Orleans is made like a bowl. So when those levees break, it just starts pouring in. And so a lot of people don't understand that. That it's about survival when you got children and you got water that's now making you go to the second floor. And one man, he went out and had his arm ripped off by an alligator.
Right, I heard that.
Something out of his shed, and then he died. And the wife, he was 70 years old. And so, to me, we just have to really be mindful on what our fellow man is going through. And don't try to make it, even if you ain't going to help, don't make the situation worse. You know what I'm saying? You don't know why that person is carrying water. You should know what they're going to do with it, though. They're going to drink it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're saying most of the water has been contaminated. So you can't really just drink the water that's coming from your faucet.
Right.
So, so I guess that was just something that I wanted to mention and things like that. And just we all should just keep them in prayer and try to be mindful.
Absolutely.
Well, we will. We
will definitely keep them in prayer. And like I said, Doc, you just keep us abreast of what you plan on doing. And if anybody, I always put Maurice's number up to be our contact point, because a lot of people that are here, know how to reach him. And if anybody, I'm running it on the banner right now. Maurice's phone number, Party Marty's Moon Bouncers, 410-800-6628. And if anybody would like to make any type of contribution to what Doc is going to do, because we all know Doc and we know he's going to do something. We know he's not the type to just sit on his hands and talk. He's going to make some action. So if anybody want to contribute in any way that you can. And this is, like I always say when we do this, everybody, we don't beg for money. You know, if you don't have it and it's in your heart, we understand that too. And we also got to understand that even if we can put forth enough to get a case of water, you know, then that's a help in this situation. So, you know, Doc, we're going to keep the family in prayer.
Thank you.
We also going to let, you know, sometimes we going to put our money where our mouth is. So, you can count on us.
I appreciate it. It's good to know.
So, that being said, guys, we are going to get out of here unless somebody has something else that they would like to share. And Doc, do you have anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I think that was about it. You know, I just want us to just keep everybody in prayer that's going through what's going on right now. I feel that God is trying to get people's attention. And so we have a lot going on, and we have to really look at it for what it is. We are kind of living in Revelations right now, you know, and so a lot that you see in the Bible in biblical terms is kind of playing out right now when it talks about like the locusts, and we see all them cicadas, and when it talks about the pestilence, and we see now the disease and different things, and when they talk about the different things with destruction, talking about the storms. I mean, we really just have to to be mindful, and so let us try to show some love as you run into people, because you never know how many people may need to just have one word of encouragement. Right. You know, and so speak life and not death into people. And so we just got to do that.
That's right. Sugar Mama Jones said peace and blessings, and she like to thank each one of us. We thank you too, because you always right in here with us, girl. And one thing that I just like to say really quickly is, a random act of kindness, people. It can be a small thing. If you go through the drive-through today, pay for somebody's cup of coffee. Pay for somebody's burger. You know what I'm saying? Just any small random act of kindness. You just don't know with things like that. Somebody could really be going through something. And just to come into contact, I never forget, a couple months ago, we were in Virginia, and we went into a Starbucks that was inside of a Target. And a lady, a young white college student, I was getting a latte, and she came up and she said, "Ma'am, I want to just pay for that for you and hope that it'll help you have a good day." Meant everything to me. I'll never forget it. So just the smallest thing, everybody, just be kind. Just do something nice for somebody. Do something nice for a stranger, and you just don't know how good that it'll make you feel. It'll not only benefit the person that's on the receiving end, but it will benefit you as well, because it'll just make you feel so good. So just like Gina said, we won't be with you guys tomorrow, and we won't see you again until Monday when we do Real Talk. And I want everybody to know that, we're going to have Doc coming in with his special broadcast whenever he's doing something that, he want to share, and he get his people together. We'll let y'all know, and Doc can come in and do his special broadcast whenever he want. But like we say, we know that Doc is busy saving the world. And it's important for the world to be saved. So
one soul at a time.
That's right. So we don't want to get in the way of that. But whenever Doc has something that he want to do, we'll keep y'all abreast, and we'll jump right in there with it. So, everybody be safe, be kind, and try to, let be the change that you want to see.
That's right.
And wear your mask.
And wear the damn mask. Don't forget, we didn't even get on y'all about COVID today. We let y'all slide today. So until we see y'all on Monday, y'all be good. We out.
All right.